everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 13.1 Developer Beta 1. This is kind of strange and unexpected since iOS 13 isn't even out yet, but that may mean that it's very close to being released, and Apple press invites should go out for the next iPhone fairly soon. So we do have a few new features throughout this, actually quite a few, and some fixes as well. Now, one of the interesting things is this one only came in at 451 megabytes, so it's an addition to the iOS 13 update. If you are not on an iOS 13 beta, it can be up to 4 gigabytes on your device. It was about 451 megabytes on all of these devices, but let's take a look at the build number. You can see the build number is 17A5821E, and it's very different from the other build numbers. So this is a completely new version. A lot of people thought it was a mistake and it was beta 9, but it's not. It's something completely different. Now, there are new modem updates in this particular update, so they updated the modems. Hopefully the connectivity is a lot better and it works better overall. Now, in the notes are very much like the iOS 13 betas. There's 23 known issues and 9 issues are resolved. And seeing how this is a new beta, there shouldn't be any resolved issues, but there are some things they resolved. And one of those is Siri Shortcuts has the automation tab back. So in automation, you can go into automation, add a new automation, and use an NFC tag and set up all sorts of new automations. They've also added the ability in Shortcuts to have third-party shortcut actions that can also write to files now. So you can save your actions in files with text. So maybe we'll be able to develop and do some more things in the future on iPad or iOS. Now, one of the other things they've fixed and brought back is if you're in Maps and you get directions and then you slide up, you now have Share ETA again. So this feature is back, and that's a nice little addition that they've brought back. Now, other than that, there's a lot of new additions and changes here and there, and one of them is in the wallpaper. So if we go into Settings, and then we go to Wallpaper, and then under Choose a New Wallpaper, we go to Dynamic Wallpaper, we have a bunch of new ones. So there's a bunch of new dynamic wallpaper. They have kind of a dark theme to them, some of them, and others are straight out of iOS 7. So there's some that were here before, and there's some new ones as well. So that's really nice. We just have an addition to wallpaper. Now, I would imagine quite a few more later on under stills or live. So hopefully we'll see more of those by the time iOS 13 releases. Now, also, when you're in wallpaper, and maybe we want to set our own wallpaper, so I'll go to my photos here. And if I want to set today's wallpaper, which is linked in the description as I always do, what you'll see is if I set it to use as wallpaper, I can no longer move it around and size it properly. I don't know if they're going to bring this back. I've tried a couple different things. It doesn't really matter. You can't resize it. So no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to work. That's a small little change. Now, also in HomeKit, we'll go into HomeKit here, and if we go to Edit, under Edit, maybe we'll edit the light panels. They've now added the new icons like we have on macOS. So you have a bunch of new icons for switches and things like that, and lights, so you can add those as well if you want to do that. So that part's really nice. And you'll see I have a quick error there. We'll just exit out of there. It could not edit the accessory, so we'll get out of there, but it seems to have a couple little bugs here and there. Now, a lot of you are looking forward to some new fonts, and while they have not updated the fonts in settings, if you go to the actual setting for fonts, it now says no fonts installed, and then says open App Store. If you open the App Store, it brings you to lessons for guitars and things like that, just what's popular today. So it looks like they're going to add this later on in the App Store, but they haven't done it yet. So it's more of a placeholder now. Now, another quick feature I found that I thought was really nice was actually with AirDrop. So if I go into Photos and then I go to AirDrop this wallpaper here, tap on AirDrop, you'll see that all the icons appear. And compared to a device that's not running iOS 13.1, it looks a lot nicer. I've actually got iOS 13 Beta 8 on the left with my iPhone XR, and then on the right I have the XS Max. And you can see there's now icons for AirDrop, so it just looks a little bit better and a little bit nicer with the corresponding phone or Mac showing up with the AirDrop devices. Now, if you're playing music or whatever you're listening to, let me turn this on. It's playing in my AirPod. When you move the volume slider you can see here it has the AirPods in it. So if I have AirPods, it will show those. If I don't have AirPods and I have Powerbeats Pro, it will actually show those. So it's a nice little addition to the volume slider, just a little touch. Now, another thing has to do with the Watch app. So let me go into that. In the Watch app, if I tap on App Store in the bottom right, it says the App Store is now on Apple Watch. So it's moving completely to Apple Watch. You'll only have it on the Watch. And there was a Watch update, but it's still watchOS 6. So that's it. It's now on the Watch. So that's kind of a nice little move. And then also, if you're using an app such as Waterminder or something like that, there are new Siri parameters that are working. So this was announced with iOS 13, and that basically lets you pick parameters using Siri. So if you want to log your water using Siri, it will ask you how much, things like that. So it's more contextual. Then also, if you're using Test Flight, maybe you're testing some different apps and things like that, once you install that app, you'll see here's Apollo. This one's on Test Flight. It has a little yellow dot. That indicates that it's actually a Test Flight app. And even if you open that app and go back out, that little yellow dot stays. So it's a nice new little indication that it's kind of a beta app. Now also on the iPad, there's not really anything new there. However, if we take a look at mouse support, there's a new little feature. So let me move these over. And if I use the mouse, you'll see I can move it around on the iPad, but there's some new options here for the secondary button. So if we go into settings and then we go to accessibility, then we go to touch, then we go to assistive touch, then we go to devices, then we go to Magic Mouse 2 that I have paired. For button 2, you can see that I have it set for a long press. So you can set it to a 3D touch or a long press depending on which device you're using. It's just a new little option that's there. I also noticed an issue with iPad OS when I was trying to create folders. If I do that, maybe drag it on top of another one, you'll see it, the background kind of disappears. So I noticed this is an issue, and the only way I could fix it is tap and hold, move it to another screen, or sometimes wait for it to reset itself. Oftentimes this does not work, so there's definitely some issues there. Also, split view does work fine. If we open an app, let me do that again here. Maybe we'll open the App Store. You'll see split view is working fine there. So everything else seems to be okay, but that one little thing is a little bit different. Now, iOS 13.1 does add some additional codec support. Now, this isn't something you can see, but HEVC video encoding or H.265 video encoding now has alpha channels for easier green screen style compositing. And I think that's to get ready for the new iPhone 11, where they may have some really next level iPhone cameras. So hopefully we'll see something with that. We don't really know right now. Now, before we take a look at performance and Geekbench and things like that, I wanted to mention a couple things that aren't there. If we go back into settings, I don't see the announce with Siri option. Even with these paired, if I go to Siri and search, the announce with Siri option is not here. So I'm not sure why that is. Hopefully they'll bring that back shortly. Also, there's no redesigned call interface. When you get a call, it's still the same interface. I know a lot of you ask me that. And then also, if you use Google Hangouts, it doesn't work. So if you try and open Hangouts, you'll see it crashes every time. So I'll open it up and it just keeps crashing. So if you use Hangouts, you probably don't want to upgrade to 13.1 just yet. Now, as far as older devices, this is an iPhone 6s Plus. The scrolling seems fine so far, the little bit that I've used it. 3D touch is working, but it feels much more like haptic touch. So scrolling's working fine. I haven't opened the music app on this since updating, so let's see what we've got here. It's nice and smooth, and I have no issues there. Now, also on the iPhone SE, which is also one of the older devices, again, everything feels nice and fast. This is the first time I've opened music, so I'll give you an idea of how quick it is. I'm not seeing really any frame rate drops or anything like that, and overall it feels pretty fast. I would expect your games to work and everything, since this is a continuation of iOS 13. Most likely these betas are a little bit more stable. However, if you're afraid of bugs, I wouldn't upgrade just yet. Now let's take a look at battery life, and this one has been running iOS 13 beta 8, and battery life has been doing okay. Now, we won't know how battery life is for a few days. I know a lot of you ask me, but an indication of your battery life is not how quickly it drops from 100. It's actually using it all day, seeing how much it drops over the next few days, and then seeing how battery life is. That's a much more accurate indication. So right now, on a daily average, with about 20 to 30% left, I'm getting about 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time. Normally, I get about 6.5 hours total usage on my iPhone. So that gives you an idea. Hopefully 13.1 is the same. Now let's take a look at the Geekbench scores. Now, one thing I did notice is that the Geekbench scores actually went up on the iPhone XS Max. So we have 4,828 for single core, 11,501 for multi-core. If we take a look at the history, you'll see here that it increased a little bit by a little over 100 or so on the multi-core and maybe 30 or so on the single core. So it's not incredible. We're pushing these processors to the max anyway. This is what we can expect as normal, but let me bring up all these devices to show you what they should be getting in general. Now, from left to right, we have the iPad Air 2, then the iPhone SE, the iPhone 6s Plus, and then the iPhone XS Max. So this should give you a general way to compare what you have. If you have a newer phone than the 6s Plus, it should be a little bit better, or up to what the XS Max is doing. So that's it for iOS 13.1 Beta 1. We really didn't expect this, so we may see iOS 13 Beta 9 soon, or maybe we'll see it finally released. We don't know, but we should expect a new Apple event within the next 2 weeks. So it should be somewhere around the 10th of September where we would see iOS 13 release, unless they release it early, which is a little different for them. But that's it. Let me know if you found anything else in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper, as I always do, in the description. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you'd like to see more of these videos as soon as they're released. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.